There comes a moment in every long career when the truth can't stay hidden anymore. And for Sigourney Weaver, that moment came when she turned 75. She has carried the heavy load of Alien for almost 50 years, including its successes, its hurts, and the secrets that were never supposed to leave the studio. What she recently admitted wasn't the smooth Hollywood tale people expected, but the real pain of a young woman thrown into a tough industry, fighting for respect, survival, and a role that no one thought she should have. The things she finally let herself share changed the whole story of Alien, showing fights that shaped not just her life, but the future of science fiction movies too. The role Hollywood never wanted her to have. When Sigourney Weaver first walked into the audition room for Alien in late 1978, the studio bosses didn't see a future star. They saw a problem. She was too tall, too unknown, too different for the kind of movie Fox was only half-heartedly paying for. In fact, the original 1976 script didn't even think of a woman surviving the story. All the early versions used male words like he, and Hollywood's thinking back then was pretty clear. No one wants to watch a woman fight a monster. That famous bad line was said behind closed doors, creating a quiet push against casting her before she even started working on set. Ridley Scott saw something different. Walter Hill and David Giler saw something even the studio didn't get. Viewers would never guess the final survivor would be a woman. But this risky choice brought problems. When Weaver finally got the role, the rest of the cast had already been hired, and some actors openly showed frustration that an unknown stage actress with only about 6 seconds on screen in Annie Hall would lead the movie. Her pay showed the bad feelings. While John Hurt got $250,000, Sigourney Weaver was paid just $35,000, a no. Ember, that made clear how little Fox thought of her. Even small physical things turned into fights. Bosses said she shouldn't look too strong, while some crew members made fun of her height or ignored her questions as silly theater stuff. What she remembers most from those weeks wasn't excitement. It was fear. The fear of failing, the fear of getting replaced, and the fear that the industry might be right about her. But Weaver found one steady support on set, Ian Holm. She went to him early, feeling nervous, asking if Ripley always felt sure she was doing the right thing. Holm said, "Absolutely." Weaver didn't agree. To her, Ripley was making it up as she went, scared, moving forward only because she had no choice. In that fear, she found her acting raw, real, and full of pain. No one on that set knew it yet, but the woman the studio didn't want was about to change a whole genre forever. The scary making of Alien and the hidden truth behind its most famous scene. For years, movie fans thought the horror of Alien came from its monster design, its mood, or its tight, closed-in feel. But at 75, Sigourney Weaver finally admitted something darker. The real fear came from how unprepared she was and how little anyone told her. Ridley Scott wanted real reactions, and that meant keeping info from the cast, especially in the movie's most famous moment, the chestburster scene. The script gave almost no details. Even Weaver and Veronica Cartwright weren't told what the full creature looked like until someone from effects showed them a small gray worm-like puppet, ugly, not finished, and creepy in a way no drawing could show. No one knew exactly how it would move, how much blood there would be, or what it would feel like to stand just inches away as it burst from John Hurt's body. On the filming day, Weaver walked onto a set covered in real animal guts. 4 cameras were hidden behind and plastic covers. Buckets of real gross stuff sat under tables. The air smelled so bad it made Cartwright throw up as she got into place. Weaver later said she wasn't pretending to be scared. She was scared. Scott wanted natural reactions, not acting, and what he got was a cast ready for something they couldn't guess. When the creature finally burst up and ran across the table in one perfect take, Weaver and the others jumped back in real shock. Their screams, their confusion, their faces stuck in disbelief. None of it was practiced. But the most upsetting truth wasn't the blood and guts. It was the loneliness Weaver felt as a first-time movie actress. The set was built like a confusing maze, dark and tight, always sprayed with glycerin so dust and sweat stuck to everyone's skin. She wasn't allowed to touch the future machines. Most buttons were fake, and every mistake she made, like accidentally looking at the camera, felt like another reason Hollywood might say she wasn't ready. Yet, despite all the fear, despite the rude treatment and doubt. Weaver kept pushing through scenes that felt more like real survival tests than making a movie. She didn't know it then, but every moment of weakness, every shake in her voice, every natural reaction helped create a new kind of hero, one that no studio boss ever thought would work. Aliens, the sequel that almost broke her, and the line she never meant to say that way. If the first movie pushed Sigourney Weaver to the edge of fear, Aliens pushed her to the edge of being totally worn out. When James Cameron sent her the script while she was in France working on another film, she was shocked. Ripley was in almost every page. It wasn't a small part, not a side role. This was a tough emotional trip full of hurt from the past, sadness, motherhood, and war. And for the first time in Hollywood, a woman wasn't just leading an action sequel, she was holding up the whole thing. But the filming wasn't friendly. The British crew openly disliked Cameron, refusing to watch the Terminator and saying the young director didn't deserve the job. Weaver spent weeks trying to calm everyone down, reminding the crew that Cameron had written something amazing. It didn't help much. What Cameron asked from her was huge. The emotional scenes with Newt, the fighting parts, the non-stop speed of Ripley's trip into the alien hive, it all needed a level of energy that left her hurt, mentally tired, and overwhelmed. Weaver later said that filming the elevator drop, where Ripley gets ready to face the Queen, made her think of samurai movies just to find the mental strength. She was newly married then, and talks with her husband helped her picture the body and mind ritual of going into battle. Then there was the line, the one that would make her career famous. "Get away from her, you bitch!" Weaver admitted she said it wrong. When an actor wants to sound strong, the voice should go lower. But in the mess of the power loader set, she got scared. The line went higher in pitch, almost cracking, more desperate than bossy. She thought it made her sound weak. Cameron loved it. They didn't film it again. She had 1 or 2 tries before the complicated machines would need hours to fix, so they kept the version she thought was bad. That mistake turned into the most famous moment in the series. The Academy noticed too. Her Oscar nomination for Aliens, something rare for a sci-fi movie, shocked even her. Hollywood hardly ever respected science fiction, but Ripley made them pay attention. Still, for Weaver, the praise came with a bitter side. She had given everything, body and feelings, but the price was high. No one outside the set knew how much pain was behind that acting. Alien 3, the movie that hurt her deep. The studio fight no one was supposed to know about. If Alien built her up and Aliens lifted her higher, then Alien 3 almost ruined her career and feelings. At 75, Sigourney Weaver finally said that the third movie wasn't just a messy production. It was a fight she never wanted. The original script by Vincent Ward was nothing like the final film. It was set on a wooden monastery planet where monks lived alone, thinking Ripley was a test from God and the alien a punishment from heaven. Fox liked the script, built sets, and then just 3 weeks before shooting threw it all out. Millions were wasted. The director was fired and the movie suddenly had no story. Then came David Fincher, 28 years old, never directed a full movie before, and pushed into a studio mess he couldn't control. Every morning, Fincher argued with bosses who changed scenes overnight. He worked from torn-up drafts, bits of Ward's monastery idea, unused Cold War weapon ideas from William Gibson, and parts of Walter Hill's prison escape version. Weaver later said it was the time Hollywood stopped taking risks and started only caring about not losing money. Her fights were just as hard. The studio didn't want Ripley to shave her head, saying she needed to look pretty. Weaver said no. The glue for her bald cap burned her skin, causing bad rashes that slowed filming. When Fox took away her co-producer credit from early ads and used the rough tagline, "The bitch is back," she was mad. She had fought for respect, only to be turned into a cheap ad line. But the worst choice was when Fox decided to kill Newt and Hicks before the opening credits even ended. Weaver said that if Ripley lost everything that made life worth living, then Ripley should die too. She wanted a real ending, not a mean setup for more movies. Fincher wanted Ripley's final drop into the furnace to be quiet and sad. Fox wanted big action, forcing him to add the chestburster coming out in midair, a choice Weaver called unnecessary and cheap. Fincher hated the movie completely, refusing to help with the later special version. For Weaver, the whole thing left deep hurts. She thought about quitting acting. She saw how male bosses called her ideas crazy while ignoring the heavy feelings she carried for the series. It was the only movie in her career that made her feel truly beaten. And yet, she still stood up for Fincher for years. She believed he had a great movie hidden under studio meddling and that Alien 3 deserved better than the hate it got. Resurrection, the failed clones, and the script that made her leave the series. By the time Alien Resurrection came in 1997, Sigourney Weaver thought Ripley's story was done. She had made sure Ripley died in Alien 3 exactly so the character couldn't be brought back just for money. And yet Hollywood found a way around it, cloning. It was brave, weird, and disturbing. But it wasn't coming back that bothered her. It was what she had to face on screen. Ripley 8 wasn't fully human anymore. Weaver wanted her moves, her look, even her quiet moments, to feel dangerous, like the alien DNA had changed her inside. But nothing got her ready for the scene that stuck with her for years. Finding Ripley's failed clones, twisted, cut up, in pain. One clone begged her to end its life. Weaver said that moment was the hardest she ever filmed in the series, not because of the blood, but because she had to picture Ripley seeing her own pain copied in real bodies. The movie itself was messy, with weird tone changes, bad rewrites, and strange choices. Critics hated it, thinking the series had gone wrong. But Weaver fought to defend it. She liked the bravery, the odd humor, the try at something new even if it didn't land perfectly. And then came the moment that made her decide never to come back. The studio wanted to turn Ripley into a sellable action toy. She said no to Alien vs. Predator right away, calling it silly, famously saying it was like making Jaws fight Godzilla. She had spent years making Ripley a real person, not a joke. She felt the crossover movies made cheap everything Ripley gave up, especially in Alien 3. She turned down millions to keep the character's respect. But the truth she finally shared at 75 was even sadder. She said she walked away because Ripley had become too hard to go back to. Each sequel made her relive hurt, sadness, and loss. The role had taken over her heart and mind. She didn't know anymore where Sigourney stopped and Ripley started. And yet, Ripley kept living through games, fans, and a world that now saw her as one of the best sci-fi heroes ever. Weaver never regretted protecting her, but she thought she paid a big personal price for it. The big reveal at 75, FBI threats, lost scripts, and the one version of Ripley she might still play. At 75, Sigourney Weaver shared a surprise no one saw coming. After years of saying Ripley should stay gone, she finally admitted there is one script, one idea for Ripley's future that moved her enough to think again. And it came from the man who helped make Alien first, Walter Hill. Hill had quietly written 50 pages about where Ripley would be now. When Weaver read them, she felt something she hadn't felt since 1986. He got her. He got Ripley. And he got the world that would see a woman like her as dangerous instead of a hero. In this version, Ripley isn't cheered. She's locked up, hidden by a society scared of the truth she knows, punished for saving humanity. Weaver said the pages felt amazing, painful, raw, and sadly real. And that wasn't the only secret she kept. At New York Comic-Con in 2025, she finally told that the world almost got a different Alien 5 years ago. Neil Blomkamp had pitched her a movie that brought Newt back to life and fixed Ripley in a way she never imagined possible. She loved the looks. She loved the script. She believed in it. Then, as she said, it all fell apart because of control. Hollywood fights, who owns what, power games. It was never about the story. It was about who owned Ripley. And Weaver, shocked at how fast the project died, stayed quiet for almost 10 years. There was another hidden truth. During early Alien ads, the studio told her not to talk openly about inside problems. Weaver once hinted she'd even been contacted by people higher than the studio. The hint was that she had to stay quiet for the movie's good. Over time, the warning stopped, but the pressure stayed with her. It taught her how easy it was for a character to be taken from the actor who made it. And yet, now at 75, she said she's not scared anymore. If Ripley comes back, it won't be in a brainless action movie or a just-for-old-times reboot. It will be through Hill's script, a story of anger, loneliness, memory, and the cost a survivor pays for speaking truth. It would be Ripley's last chapter. Quiet, crushing, and true. A version only Sigourney Weaver could do. For almost 50 years, Sigourney Weaver carried truths that the studio world never wanted out. Now at 75, she's finally taking back the story that shaped her life and rewriting Ripley's future on her own terms. Which part of her story surprised you the most? If you liked this deep look, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one.